Hello, back again to do another unboxing and review. Today we're going to be looking at this point and shoot camera. It comes from a company called Andoer, and this is the 50 megapixel digital camera / 4K video camcorder. And important to note, this is the 8x optical zoom version. Now, I say that again, this is the 8x optical zoom version. The reason I stress that is because this company seems to make a whole bunch of cameras, and they all basically look identical, except what's inside, the actual guts, so to speak, of the device. This one has an optical zoom, the others are only digital zoom. So the way you'll see it, if you are ordering it, is the other ones will say 16x zoom, this one will also say 16x zoom. Those, the ones you should not buy in my opinion, are all digital zoom, and this one is 8x optical, 8x digital. Alright, so, and right up top, for those who don't know the difference and why I'm making a big deal of it, optical zoom is real zoom, digital zoom is fake zoom. Optical zoom actually blows up the image using lenses, and that's usually when you see the lens of a camera going in and out, back and forth, when it zooms in and whatnot, that's optical zoom. And then digital zoom is essentially all software. The camera takes a photo and then it basically blows it up and makes it look bigger, or zoomed in, but it's not. It's a distorted image. And the more you do that, the worse your photo quality becomes. Alright, so let's go ahead and get back to this camera. I'll talk about availability. So I did have this imported, although you don't necessarily have to go that route. Let's talk about where you could get this right now if you just wanted to order it off of that website that everyone seems to use for online shopping. It starts with an A, you know what I'm talking about. If you went to that website right now, I believe at the time you're recording this, this is $80. Yeah, there are 4 color options: black, white, blue, and pink. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the spec sheet. I went ahead and cleaned up some of the details. I got this off of my importer. I went ahead and cleaned up the spec sheet to make it look a little prettier and easier to read, and I'll show that to you now. Alright, so let's take a look around the packaging. There we are, pointing out this is the 8x zoom, optical zoom version. There we are. Okay. Zoom in on the. Alright, so let's look at these little info icons here. 4K HDR, that's good. 50 megapixel max. Oh, alright, so my guess is that the actual sensor is not 50 megapixels. It's probably using software to up the resolution to give you an effective 50 megapixel. Who only knows what the sensor actually is. Alright, here we go. SD. So it can only take 32 gig micro SD cards or SD cards. Good to know. Don't try dropping your 128s in here. Probably won't even recognize them. But again, you can carry a lot of SD cards. They're light and small, so that's not too much of an issue. And then you got the TFT display dimensions, blah blah blah, and then anti-shake. Okay, what else? Okay, and then what else we have here? Okay, anti-shake. We get a macro mode. That's cool. And yeah, also some face details. Okay, yeah, they could have run this through proofreading. But anyway, we know what they're trying to say, so it's, I guess, okay. And then here we go. There's what the back of the camera looks like. All the controls are right where your right hand would be. And so okay. And then again, here are the color options. And these should be checked so the person doesn't have to actually open the box to see what color it is. I hope they gave me the right one. We'll see soon enough, right? Okay. Alright, so overall impressions of the packaging. First of all, I'm not sure if you went to pick this up in person at a retail store, if this wouldn't have a sleeve around it, because if you notice, this just slides open. There's no seal on here, so there's a chance there's a sleeve. But since I don't know that, we'll just have to go ahead and look at what we have and take it from there. So in this case, I think the box is somewhat eye-catching. They do use a lot of colors, but it's not my preference for a couple reasons. First of all, I rather, the little space shuttle and the molecular structure stuff, and I believe on here we have like planets and things. Yeah, that's all cool, I get it, science, technology, but honestly I would rather just have an actual photo of the item right up front, and then more specs on the back. We saw the spec sheet I showed you. They could have used all this real estate, or at least this side here, to fill it up with those specs. These, as we already saw, they pretty much just all repeat one another, and there are obvious spelling errors on there. Not the end of the world, but again, if you're trying to impress people, misspelling simple words like that's probably not the best way to do it. So I would give it a passing. It does seem to be pretty sturdy. And I think these are supposed to sit flush together, but if you notice mine, the lid got a little wide on one side, so it kind of slips over the edge here, which doesn't make it as sturdy because then it obviously deforms. So, yeah, they could have done better. They could have done worse. Overall, it's passable, so let's get into the unboxing. Alright, so open it. It's real easy since it's not sealed. Alright, there is the main item. It does have this foam kind of frame. And let's see if you can see it there. There we go. You see the foam frame with a little place to put your finger to pull it out on the bottom and the top. So we'll do that to take out the camera, and we'll see what else we get. So there's a shelf. Use a finger hole to remove the shelf and the frame. And then in the bottom we get some accessories. So we have here, we have we got charging cable, also I'm assuming data cable as well, and it is what is that? That's micro USB. Okay, you get a nice kind of shiny bag, and it does have drawstring to tighten. It pretty much feels like you're seeing it is kind of slippery on the outer surface. Inner surface is you can kind of see it's kind of lightly textured actually inside, but not too much to scratch. So anyway, and alright, so that's the bag. We do get a manual. Let's see, it's in English. Awesome. Start the machine or engine. How much displacement do you think we have in our camera engine? Anyway, alright, so yeah, we do get a manual. And then we get a nice little wrist strap, lanyard. I recommend putting that on. And then, importantly, we get 2 batteries. So, and then just to make sure, let me let's go, can you see there? So we have 750, what did they say here? 750, yep, and 3.7 volt. Yeah, okay, good. So, alright. And there's the contact terminals up top. Anyway, so you do get 2 batteries. Alright, and then besides that, anything else? Nope. That's it. So now let's go look at the camera. Alright, so it comes in this nice little protective bag. Take that out. And there we are. Okay, so talk about what's up front here. We have obviously the concentric rings, so for the optical zoom to come out. So, alright, you have this up here. You can see this little thing in the corner, right here, with my thumbs pointing to. That there is a little mirror, as you can see the reflection of my hand. Anyway, that's so you can use this if you want to take a selfie. Use that little mirror. Alright, then we'll have to figure out what that little thing is there. Flashes up top. On the bottom, charging, possibly a speaker for your tripod, and the battery door, which, let's go ahead and try that right now. Yeah, so slide this and then it pops open. Okay, one thing I want to check real quick. Alright, good. So this is recessed enough that you don't open it every time you slide your hand across the bottom, which is good. Okay, and then over here, I'm assuming that's where you tie the lanyard that came included. Alright, there you are. There are your controls on the back. Now, let's see here. Zoom in. Alright, so there are your controls. Y, so that's your zoom. Yep. Those buttons also may be directional buttons for menus as well as what they indicate. So down is also the trash can or delete. You get it. And then here M to get to menu, I'm guessing, and then yeah, DSP. It does look like there's a screensaver screen protector installed on the screen, where you can see the little tear off tab right there. So for the protective layer of the screen protector. Alright, so for the top, power, shutter, maybe a microphone up top, not sure, and that's that. Alright, so I thought I'd show you inside the battery door, because this is also where you're going to be putting your SD card. So I don't know if it's coming up on camera. Basically, this thing's kind of divided in half. There's a primary spot on top where the battery goes, and then underneath there's a little bracket where you slide what looks to be a full-size SD card in there. So, alright. And by the way, this does have a spring. So I'll give you a reference on the size. There you go. So, gives you an idea. Alright, so first impressions after looking it over briefly and also, of course, touching it. First, I want to let you know this black material here. This is, it's like a slightly rubberized plastic, so a rubberized coating over plastic. So, but yeah, that is plastic. And talking about that, almost everything on here is plastic. The only thing I think may be metal is this strip right here on the top. And basically what I'm touching with my left pointer finger. That may be a thin piece of aluminum, but everything else is plastic. And as far as how tough it feels, I mean, it keeps its shape, but I really wouldn't abuse this. This does not feel to be ruggedized at all. And again, to be fair, it never was marketed as a rugged camera. But yeah, I wouldn't be too abusive of it, but it at least seems like reasonable. It'll hold together. Reasonable use. Okay, push these buttons. Yeah, so, alright. Alright, so now it's time to go ahead and power it up. Of course, to do that, I'm going to have to put one of these batteries in there. And as you should do with any new device when you get it with lithium batteries, is obviously give it a full, nice, long charge, especially for that first use, prior to first use. So I'll do that. And of course, the only way to charge these batteries, since it doesn't come with like a little battery charging cradle type deal for the batteries, is of course just to put this in and then plug in the camera. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I went ahead and charged up both batteries and also did the initial setup. So I went ahead, put the date, the time, and also formatted my memory card, and also went with some of the settings that I personally want to use right out of the box. Alright, so before we go into the menus, I just want to show you two important things up here on this screen. First off, in the upper left hand corner, you have what mode you're in. It's a blue camera because we're in photo mode. The other two modes are playback and video. Over here, this is how many more photos you can take with your current settings. If you increase the amount of megapixels, then of course this number will go down because each photo will then take up more room on the memory card. Over here we have the M button to get to menu. We'll do that in a second. And then display. Now the display key, this one here, is, from what I see, as you push it, you can get rid of those icons to kind of clean up your screen. Okay. And push it again to bring those back. Okay. Now we're going to go to the menu. So what you do is you have kind of a tab system here. So to get to the different tabs, you go left and right, and then to highlight what you want, you go up and down, and to select it, you hit the OK button here in the middle. So let's go through the scenes. So you have that, and if you notice, there's a little bar over here, which shows you there's more below, and you have those extra two down there. Okay, going back over to the next tab. Image size. Okay, this is important, especially since earlier in the video you recall me saying I didn't know how many megapixels the sensor really is and how much it's, like for example, how much of that 50 megapixel or effective megapixels is interpolation. Now, if you're not familiar with interpolation, basically it means you've gone beyond what the sensor itself can do, and you're using software to artificially make your pictures more detailed. But that key word is artificial. So a lot of the image won't really be what was really there. It's what the computer approximated to be there to give it a bit more, well, you get the idea. So I do not like shooting in using interpolation. I try to avoid it. So how many megapixels is actually the camera itself?
Now, there's probably a hint right here. Now, it didn't say this in the manual from what I saw. However, if you notice, I'll scroll through again, you might notice something. So we'll go at 50 and I'll go down. Look closely at the numbers. Yeah, did you see something there? Why is 16 and below bold, and then these are not bold? So my guess is, and this is a hunch, but I'm thinking 16 megapixels is as high as you can go without interpolation, and hence why this is bold and that is not. So I'm going to roll with that, so that's why I have that selected. Okay, and now let's move over. Next you have your, okay, I'll just go through these now. Image quality, self-timer, anti-shake, face detect, left face detect on. Okay, I'll do that for now. Macro mode, so here is, I guess, there's, it seems to be a little button over here for, I don't know, kind of has the same icon, that little flower, but apparently you can maybe get into it by the menu by going here and selecting it. Of course, I have it off right now. And then white balance. There are some, we'll see if there's any more down here. Incandescent. No, okay, so those are your options there. And then over. Color artifact. We'll see how far it goes down. Should be -3, right? Yeah. So +3 to -3. Leave that normal, right in the middle right now. ISO. Yep. Okay. Metering. And of course language. Okay. Oh, there's more. Date and time. So there's your timestamp if you want to put it on. Right now I have it on. So yep. Obviously you don't want to do that. If you've taken photos, you don't want to reformat your card. But I've already formatted my card, so moving on. And then there's your firmware. Okay, so we went through them all. And then just to show you, I can switch modes here. So first I got to get out of the menu to, oh yeah, I should show you how to change modes, right? Now, usually like on the cameras I'm used to using, there's like a wheel and you can turn it to get to different modes or whatever. Here, to do that, you have to hit the OK button while you're in. So like ready to take a picture, and then what you do is you go ahead and hit OK. I think you tap it once. We'll see. Yeah. So once that puts us in video mode, so you can see there. And then of course you can go in the menu. If you're going to want to change the settings for this mode, you would go to menu and you would do basically what we did before. For the alright, and then I'll do it again, and that should take us to playback. And of course there's no file since I haven't taken a photo yet. Hit it one more time. We should go back to camera. There we are. Okay. Alright, so I have the chance to charge up the device and also use it some. And I'm just going to go over a couple things to note on day-to-day operation of this. Alright, so first of all, let's talk about charging and data transfer. That's done through this port here on the bottom. Data transfer, I suppose you could also remove the SD card, although I would recommend using this method, the data transfer through cable, as opposed to this when you can, since opening this requires also opening the battery compartment, and beyond possibly having to reset your date and time and whatnot on the device. I also try to avoid using these doors as much as possible, just for the longevity of the device. The less you open this, the tighter it shuts, and that's a good thing for obvious reasons. Okay, going back to this. So when you connect the cable here, whether you're just using a power bank to charge this device, like maybe on the go, or you're plugging this into your computer, either way, as soon as you connect any power to the camera through this port, you want to keep your hands clear of this area, since the lens will actually come out. The shutter will open and then the lens zooms out for a little bit. And if you're holding it here, you may obstruct that and hence maybe damage the motor that pushes out the lens. Not sure, just keep your hands clear of here. Okay. Now, let's also talk about how long it takes to go from power off state, like we are here, to actually ready to shoot a picture. Alright, so here we go. Hit the power button. And now you're ready to take a picture. So, not too bad. Okay, now, since we have this open, it's a good time to talk about zoom. So, as you know, zoom's controlled through these two buttons here, right? Okay, so... And what I wanted to point out is this bar. on the side. And you may notice this bar is actually broken up into two bars. Bottom bar is bigger than top bar, and the bottom bar represents the optical zoom, and then there's a divide, and then the top little bar is your digital zoom. So, okay, but just to give you an idea, I'll go ahead and zoom here, and you can see how the bar fills up. So it's that yellow that's filling up the bar. And there you go. So that's your max zoom before you go to optical. Before you go to digital. Okay? So there you are. Alright, in case you just were curious, I'll go ahead and show you this side of the camera as I zoom in and zoom out, just to show you that it's actually doing something. So here we go. Alright, and also just talking about how to snap a picture. This probably goes without saying for most of you, but just to be thorough, I'll show you that this does have the half press of the shutter button to focus, and then the full press to actually take the picture. So it's to demonstrate that half push. Now we're ready to shoot, and of course the reticles turn green, and that's when you would push it all the way down to take the photo. Alright, so we're at the point of the review now where I'm going to go ahead and show you samples of the photos and video that I've taken using this device. Now, so before we get into that, I want to kind of let you know the parameters I used as far as the settings on this. And we'll start off by saying in all cases, whether it be photo or video, I've never used the digital zoom. It's always been to the max of the optical, but that's it. And I explained why early in the video, why I don't like digital zoom. So I'm not going to go over that again. But okay, so know that. Then the other thing is to talk about the still photos. The resolution is at 16 megapixel. Again, because I believe that to be the actual sensitive or the resolution that the sensor on its own can do. So that's why it's at 16 megapixel. And then as far as the video, I put it at 1080p. Again, the lower option would have been 720 and the higher would be 4K. And I left it at 1080 again because I kind of believe that's what the sensor can do on its own. It may actually be 720p for what the sensor can do without the electronic wizardry, but I left it at 1080, so just know that. And then what else? Oh, yep, and as far as settings go. So all the assists I turned off, like the electronic image stabilization, or I think they call it auto shake on this or whatever, anti-shake, yeah, that's on it, anti-shake, have that off, and all the other settings are at either auto, or if it's more like a scale, like we'll say light exposure, how it can go from plus to minus, I just left it at 0. So again, middle level, right in the middle, dead center, or auto for all the settings. And the reason I did this is because I kind of try to see what the camera can do on its own without really input from me. So okay, with all that said, let's go ahead and get to the samples. Alright, so on second thought, I will actually include some supposed 50 megapixel images as taken by this camera. I normally don't shoot in that mode, as I've already covered, but I figured this review wouldn't really be complete if I didn't at least show it to you. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to include images. There's going to be two different sets of images. The first will be me taking a picture of a tree that's reasonably close, and then the second set will be kind of like a group of trees kind of across the road, so a little further, more like a scenery shot. Now, the first image will be shot at 16 megapixel, and then the second image will be the same thing, or same subject, but it will be shot at, again, this supposed 50 megapixel. And yeah, so here they are. Okay, so maybe you saw some difference, or more likely you didn't. And if you didn't, don't feel bad, because I didn't really expect you were. And the reason is because at the size that you're seeing the image, well, maybe you're watching this on your phone or your laptop or whatever, but the size of the image isn't big enough for you to really notice the difference between the 16 and the 50 megapixels. And this is something that we all learned back in the early 2000s, that having a lot of megapixels really doesn't do you much good unless you're really blowing up the image. And some people did. They took a photo and then they'd blow it up to be a poster size and stick it on their wall, in which case you'd want those extra megapixels. But anyway, again, I just put it in here so that you could say that we went through that test. Okay. Alright, so one other thing I wanted to cover up quickly is the flash. So as you guessed, there it is up front. And to be frank, it's more of a flashlight than it is a flash. And the reason I say that is because this doesn't flash like a normal camera. I'm sure you've had people take your pictures, so you know that right before you get that burst of light, and a lot of some people blink, and we'll take it again, my eyes were closed. But anyway, this, you're not going to have that issue because this thing just illuminates, and that's it. So again, it's more like a little flashlight on top of your camera. And let's talk about just how powerful that little flashlight is, or isn't. And that's to say that I went ahead and basically took a picture and measured the amount of light coming out of here on my lux meter. And yes, I said lux, not lumen. So my lux meter, so this camera was 2 feet away from the target. The target is about the size of a quarter, so a 25-cent piece here in the States. And yeah, and it was a straight-on shot, so this was shooting straight at the target, so perpendicular, light hitting it broadside. And the reading, get drum roll, a whole 33 lux. Yeah, so if you want to do the conversion for lumens, go ahead, but it's not anything to really write home about. So yeah, but I suppose it has something like a flash, but not really. Alright, so before we get to the conclusion, let me go over a quick disclaimer, and that's regarding my use of this item. And that is to say that I've used this item only for what was necessary to make this video. So what you saw in the contents of this video is basically all this thing has been used for so far. Now, as far as durability, and again, I already said it's not billed as a durable camera, like a rough and tumble camera. So, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't really expect too much durability of it. But again, at least it's held up to my babying of it. So take that for what's worth. And now let's go ahead and get to the conclusion. Alright, so in conclusion, would I recommend this item? Well, I'm going to say it all comes down to what you pay for it. And although that kind of rings true for a lot of things, it's especially true here. The reason for that is because here in the year 2023, almost everybody is carrying a smartphone, and even the budget phones have decent cameras on them. So you have to ask, is the performance that you saw this being able to produce during this review, is that worth carrying a whole separate device? Now, personally, I'm not opposed to carrying an extra gadgets, but if I'm going to carry a dedicated camera, and I'm going to carry something like this. It's around the same size, and the performance is actually quite good. I'm still using this today. This has been off the store shelves for a while, but again, but back to this, I would say this is more like something that you would give to maybe a youngster in your household who's showing a little interest in photography, beyond just holding up a phone and pushing the red button.
this might be something a good tester to see if they're really interested in it as a hobby. It won't probably take them long before they're going to want a little more performance than this can provide, but at least this gives you an idea to see if they're really interested in it or if it's just a fling that they're going to get bored of next week. So I think that's kind of where this kind of camera fits in. But anyway, so that'll be it.